What is up, everybody? How's it going? Welcome into the Sactown Sports Kings recap. Unfortunately, coming to you after an L, after the Sacramento Kings, unfortunately, lose in the quarterfinal of the in-season tournament. The first ever in-season tournament will not be won by the Sacramento Kings. The storybook story is now over. And we can now get to caring about regular season basketball again. Um, this was fun. I would say this is a good little experiment for the NBA. That's definitely worked out. This has definitely been an elevated experience on normal regular season games. But I'm a little bit disappointed to just kind of get so close to the in-season tournament final, or at least to the Vegas portion, and not be able to kind of fully experience it. So I am a little bit disappointed personally, but also disappointed that the Kings couldn't get the result tonight, because this is the third time that they've now played this New Orleans Pelicans team, and you would like to think that in one of these games the Kings would show. I think tonight they showed some signs of life, without a doubt, but you would think that this series would look a little bit more even through three games, and really through three games so far, to me, it's become incredibly clear. I don't know if the New Orleans Pelicans necessarily are a better team than the Sacramento Kings, but definitely they have their number. And in terms of matching up 1-to-1, Pelicans definitely have the advantage when it just comes to size, length, and just creating a basketball game that just isn't conducive for the Kings to play in. So, you're going to run into teams like that on occasion. The Minnesota Timberwolves, New Orleans Pelicans are definitely a team like that as well. There's a lot of teams in the NBA that provide a lot of length and a lot of size, but you sometimes you got to beat teams that you aren't supposed to beat. And I wouldn't even say this New Orleans team is a team that the Kings shouldn't beat, but you figure that they would have had a better showing so far through three games. It wasn't the same exact story that we've seen with this Kings-Pelicans series so far. I mean, we've seen a lot of Zion Williamson really doing whatever he wants so far through the two games before this one. Wasn't so much all on Zion tonight. Zion definitely made his impact known by the end of the game, but he finishes with 10 points. So this really wasn't about Zion. A lot of Mike Brown's pregame was talking about how this team really hasn't even slowed down Zion at all, and that was really the game plan tonight, wasn't to stop Zion, which I would say for all intents and purposes they did. 10 points on 8 shots for Zion. You're living with that, I think, 10 out of 10 nights. So the fact that they got that performance from him and still wasn't able to get the result, it's a little disheartening, a little discouraging when you think about what it would take for this Kings team to beat the Pelicans. So I guess at this point, unless some moves are made at the trade deadline, you just got to kind of hope that this Kings team doesn't match with New Orleans in a 7-game series, because it's clear that again, maybe the Kings could figure it out, and maybe in a playoff environment this series goes a little bit differently, but it's clear that the Pelicans just are a really tough matchup for this Kings team. Not that that's an excuse, but man, it is really clear that these guys just can't get to the spots that they want to against this Pelicans team, and I largely do think it's because of the length that Brandon Ingram provides. I mean, there's some lineups that the Pelicans can throw out there where they got Herb Jones at the 2, they got Brandon Ingram at the 3, Trey Murphy at the 4, and then Jonas at the 5. It almost doesn't matter. You can run out Jose Alvarado when you have length at every other position like that. So, hat tip to the Pelicans. I mean, they just got to the semis for a reason. They're a really, really good team when they're fully healthy, and I think that's they're going to be a team that's going to be a thorn in the Kings' side, I think, for not just this year, but I think for many years to come, when you kind of look at the landscape of this Western Conference and how this season has been a little bit of the young teams kind of showing their worth a little bit. You see Minnesota, you see OKC, you see New Orleans, even Dallas to an extent. You see these teams kind of starting to show a new era of Western Conference basketball, and I definitely think that this Pelicans team and this Kings team is probably going to have a really long storied. I wouldn't call it a rivalry, but they're probably going to play some really big games throughout these years. Like I can definitely foresee this team being a nail in the Kings side. So I would not expect the Pelicans to be going anywhere. For those of you who are saying, oh, it sucks that the Kings can't beat the Pelicans, but they're not really a team that you got to worry about in the playoffs. I would definitely disagree. I think is maybe big caveat if Zion Williamson is healthy. I definitely think this team has some real staying power, even as soon as this year in the Western Conference. Yeah, let's see here. When's the next game? That's a fantastic question. It's also not a straightforward answer. The Kings, I believe, play Thursday in their next game to whoever loses in the Suns-Lakers game tomorrow night. The Kings will not play that game at home for really stupid reasons that I won't get into. But yeah, they will play the loser of Lakers or Suns, whoever loses that game tomorrow. The Kings will play in the consolation bracket, if you will, of the in-season tournament. But that will not be in Las Vegas. That will be at whatever site, whether it be Staples Center or whatever they call the Phoenix Arena now. I know it's Talking Stick Arena at one point. But yeah, so little disappointing for the Kings to not get this result, of course, as well, because for those who are watching TNT's game before the Kings game, the Indiana Pacers, I mean, they have been a really fun story this year, led by, of course, Tyrese Halliburton. But Tyrese Halliburton had himself a night tonight, hit some really big shots down the stretch. He was questionable coming into tonight's game. I know Buddy Hield also hit some really big shots in that game. So a lot of ex-Sacramento King blood will still be in the tournament for those of you who are interested in having some sort of rooting interest in the rest of this tournament. Definitely you have something there in Indiana because that's a really fun situation to watch. And it's a lot like the Kings team of last year, really high-paced, fast team that's going to shoot a lot and put up a ton of points. That's really the MO of this Pacers team is to put up 140 points as a team. So I wouldn't blame anybody if you're moving over to the Indy side, at least when it comes to this tournament. On to tonight's game, and more specifically, the Kings side of things. Domantas Sabonis had himself a night. After a couple really disappointing performances, he really showed out tonight, and it wasn't an easy matchup. Jonas Valanciunas is one of those guys where if you were to probably, try and stereotype a guy that's going to give Sabonis struggles, it's going to be a big body like Jonas Valanciunas, a guy that Sabonis really can't bully, can't shove around and throw his strength around on. And I thought Domas did a great job tonight of getting to the rim. He's also fantastic at the line. I don't think he missed a free throw tonight. He didn't. He was 10 of 10 at the free throw line tonight for Domas. That's big. Did he end up with a triple-double? He did end up getting the triple-double, 26 points, 13 boards, 10 assists. Of course, all for nothing without the result. But I thought Domas was big tonight. Again, I thought the Kings did a good job of at least running their offense. I thought they knocked down their shots in that first quarter. Absolutely incredible. And then after that, it really spiraled. First quarter, they were 7-11 from three. Looked like everything was going well. Trey Lyles hit a couple threes. Kevin Huerter, Malik Monk, and Keegan Murray were 5 of 6 from three combined in that first quarter. And then everything went down from there. They were 1 of 7 from three in the second, 4 of 12 from three in the third, and then 2 of 11 from three in the fourth. So really their three-point shot just completely abandoned them. And we've talked a lot on this stream and also on the Styles and Watkins midday show that the Kings are just a different team when they're not hitting their shots. So far this season, they finished at 34% tonight. The Kings have not won a game all year when they shoot below 35%. 35% is the number the Kings need to hit from the perimeter. They have won every single game. Let me count how many it's been now. They are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-0 this season when shooting above 35.1%. They shot 35.0% What team is that? Against the Houston Rockets earlier and lost that. So when they shoot technically above 35% this year, they're 8-0. And it really does feel that way as well. I would say the eye test definitely matches that. That in 8 of the Kings' 11 victories this season, they've shot well from 3. I really do think it's as cut, dry, and simple as that. Because they're just really tough to try and keep up with on the offensive end when they're scoring at that level. And with the slight improvement on the defensive end, it's made it almost impossible to beat this Kings team when their shots falling, which is how it should be. There should not be situations like last year or like how Indy's going to find themselves a couple times this year where you shoot 50% from the field, you shoot over 40% from 3, and you still lose the game. That just shouldn't happen. So I appreciate the Kings trying to eliminate that from them, from their lives. But I will also say that tonight, when I mentioned those numbers, New Orleans shoots 54% from the field tonight, 45% from 3, and 80% from the line. It's going to be tough to win those games. I mean, New Orleans does do a good job of getting really efficient shots. I mean, when you have Zion, who's one of the best finishers at the rim, a guy who's more than capable of finishing 10 of 13 on most nights from the field. Then you got Brandon Ingram, who's a hyper efficient scorer. He's been likened to Kevin Durant before in the past for a reason. And then you got CJ McCollum as well. And then you just got shooters splattered all across the floor. You got Trey Murphy. You've got Herb Jones out there. They didn't even have their sharpshooter Jordan Hawkins tonight either. They're a really dangerous team, man, and they definitely have the Kings number. So shout out to the Pelicans. A person I will not shout out, however, ladies and gentlemen, is Jose Alvarado. I cannot with that dude. Like, shout out him for sure. He's the exact type of guy who, when he's on your team, you love him. When he's not on your team, you absolutely can't stand him. And, shout out to him only for carving a role for himself in the NBA. That's definitely not easy to do, especially when you're under 6 feet tall. Like, it's not going to be easy to be able to steal minutes. But truly tonight, he made the difference. Again, the Kings were incredible in that first quarter. The only reason the Kings didn't completely blow out the Pelicans after that first quarter, where, again, the Kings shot 63%, was because Jose Alvarado came in and changed that game to close out that first quarter. He was a plus 10 in 5 minutes. He played the last 5 minutes of that first quarter. And from that moment, the Pelicans really took off. And they kind of didn't look back. Jose just brought them a level of effort and tenacity and toughness and grit that I think really momentum-wise changed the game. Like and that's what he's there to do. It's a really interesting role, and I think he's done the best to try and make it as impactful as possible. And I think on a night like tonight, you really feel the impact of a guy like Jose Alvarado, where, he just kind of comes in, gives them a spark. He threw off the Kings' rhythm, and they never got it back. And I do think that Jose Alvarado was a big part of that. And also he hit a couple shots as well, which definitely kept him on the floor. But that's what he's out there to do. And while we're speaking about Jose Alvarado, the Kings version of Jose Alvarado, Davion Mitchell tonight, I know he was sick after the last game on Saturday against the Denver Nuggets. Tonight, by all intents and purposes, was completely healthy. He gets the DNP CD. I just thought that was an interesting note. Just kind of following that and seeing Keon Ellis get some minutes tonight. I liked Keon minutes. I usually like Keon's minutes. He hit a 3 tonight, which I thought was really big. He also had, I believe, a couple steals. They only gave him credit for 1, but I definitely saw a couple where Keon knocked the ball out. But it was a really frustrating game. I think that the Kings need to win games like these. Of course, I'm not putting tons of stock into the in-season tournament. That's not why I believe they need to win a game like this. To me, this game is a lot more about beating an opponent with the profile of the Pelicans, more in terms of their player profile. I just would have liked to see the Kings try and figure out some sort of game plan against length, because that's clearly this team's kryptonite. And it doesn't seem like they have any answer for it, which, kryptonite tends to do that. So this is interesting, actually. I don't know if your name is Oos. I know Oos is like a wrestling term, if I'm not mistaken. Not too hip on the wrestling lingo. Sorry, I'm moving this light a little bit closer to my face here. Let's get that out of the shot. So this is interesting actually, and this is intentional. Um, Shout out, I believe it was Sarit Sohi from the Ringer, I believe, just wrote a piece about the Kings, and about it's really kind of a how did we get here with the Kings in terms of De'Aaron Fox's MVP, the what the Kings are trying to do with Keegan Murray this year, and then further kind of deep dives into what the next move for this Kings team should be. I would heavily recommend everyone go reads that right now. Again, that's at theringer.com. But in that, she really does address De'Aaron Fox essentially doing what you're saying here, Oos. The mid-range game is slowly going away from De'Aaron Fox, and he's got to do a better job of finding some balance, because the reason why, for those who don't know why De'Aaron is kind of losing that mid-range game, or at least it might appear that he's losing that mid-range game, is because he's opting for more threes. And I personally don't love it. I think De'Aaron isn't really a knockdown shooter, and I see him knocking down like 35% of his threes, but I think mainly that's because he's taking so many. It's really again, it's just a numbers game. It's 3 points are worth more than two, and when you average it out on a points per possession basis, there's a certain percentage where if De'Aaron's shooting, we'll say 35% from three or 36% from three, if he's gonna average out taking, I don't know, 100 of those a season, the points per possession at some point are gonna weigh itself out more by shooting threes. And so, that's just kind of how the NBA is played today. But I think De'Aaron does need to, while that is true, I think that De'Aaron needs to find his moments of understanding that it's more of a feel thing. It is, especially down the stretch. Like down the stretch of games, I think all of the analytics, the hardcore numbers, that should go out the window, and you should just look for the shot that you feel like is best. And it's really clear from anyone who's watched De'Aaron Fox's career that when he gets 2 feet in the paint and he takes that free throw line extended jumper or a runner in the paint, that's his best shot. I mean, it feels like that thing goes in 80+% of the time. And I would love to see him kind of look more for that pick and pop jumper that we saw so much last year, because it's deadly, it's lethal, and I feel like he needs to use that almost as his setup. Like you need to establish that mid-range jump shot, that runner, to set up everything else. Of course, getting to the rim also is a big thing for setting all that stuff up. But I would like to see De'Aaron's game kind of work itself inside to outside. And, at points this season, it has felt like he's starting off with the perimeter and trying to work himself in. And I don't think that's just a De'Aaron problem. I think that's been a Kings-wide problem, that they do kind of fall in love with the three. And there'll be moments in the game, especially when they're just not hitting from the perimeter, where they just settle for threes and it just clanks and clanks and clanks. And at some point, you just kind of need a slump buster, and you need to get to the rim or get to the free throw line just to kind of get your team into a new rhythm. And frankly, I thought CJ McCollum actually did a great job of that tonight. CJ reminded me a lot of Andrew Wiggins in the playoff series against this Kings team last year, where I don't think CJ had a massive night. Yeah, you look at the scoreboard, 17 points for CJ, 7 of 14 from the field. Didn't really have a massive impact shooting the ball, but it just felt like all of his buckets were timely. All of his buckets were coming when the Kings were going on a little bit of a run, and CJ hits a three to put him back up 10 or 11. CJ hits a floater in the fourth quarter to just kind of slow the Kings run down a little bit. Those, to me, are clutch buckets. I talk about that all the time when it comes to De'Aaron and his clutch numbers. Yes, of course, last 5 minutes, 5-point game, that should be clutch. But that's not the only situations in games where clutch comes into factor. Sometimes it is, okay, let's slow down these guys and get a bucket, because, if we don't slow this thing down, it's going to start to kind of snowball. Or, timely steals, which I do think De'Aaron's actually been really good at this year. There's tons of different ways to come up clutch, and I thought CJ tonight came up clutch in a lot of big moments that didn't necessarily have to be down the stretch of the game, or like in the last 5 minutes of this game. Is there anything else that I want to acknowledge? Oh yeah, how about Trey Lyles getting feisty tonight? I love to see it as a big Trey Lyles guy, as a big Trey Lyles supporter. Um, I love to see the fire out of Trey. We kind of saw it last year against the Milwaukee Bucks when he got into the skirmish with Brooke Lopez and Giannis, where they got tackled to the ground. It was really only Trey that was scrapping. And tonight you saw him kind of get into it with Jonas Valanciunas, who is now just stacking up the offenses against the Kings. For those who will remember, he's the one who DeMarcus Cousins famously in the Olympics or in the FIBA tournament, DeMarcus kind of jabbed at him a little, and Jonas Valanciunas cowered. Jonas is also the guy who, for people remember, he swung Shemezi Metu off of his neck, and I believe he fractured Metu's wrist, and Metu missed the remainder of the season, if I'm not mistaken. And now you have this also thrown into the saga. So interesting that Jonas Valanciunas is trying to put himself in some of the biggest villain in Sacramento Kings history category conversations. But yeah, another addition to the Jonas chapter. But love to see Trey Lyles just kind of have some fire, have some energy. I also saw the TV broadcast caught Trey yapping with I think it was Najee Marshall on the sideline. I know, not a good night. I know, boo, 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 boo. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see here. Dang, y'all are going in on Mike Brown. Y'all, let's not do this yet. Let's not get to the point where Mike Brown is really catching. I'm not saying you can't blame your coach either. I'm not saying Mike Brown is free from criticism, but Kingpin, I feel like you're trolling. But the doo Brown, I saw somebody say this one's on Mike. Um, I don't really see that. I'm not saying Mike Brown's blameless in this game for sure. But I didn't feel like their strategy was off. I didn't feel like um, I didn't feel like the game plan was off. I mean, they were going to double Zion. I even said on the radio today, like, I don't think it's a secret. It's not even really about Bi and Zion. Those guys are almost guaranteed to get theirs. It's about stopping everybody else. You can't have Trey Jones scoring 20 or Herb Jones. You can't have Herb Jones scoring 23. You can't have Trey Murphy drop 16. You can't have Jose give you 9. You can't have Jonas Valanciunas give you 18 and 11. Like, that's really where this game is lost. I swear. Like, you can survive Bi and Zion and CJ combining for 70, but you can't survive when, what is that? Herb Jones and Jonas Valanciunas combined for 41. You throw Trey Murphy on there with his 16, 57 points. So 60 points out of your non-big three. Yeah, like, you're not going to win that game. I'm sorry. You're just not. You're not going to win that game. And I don't think that's on Mike Brown. Mike Brown said that in the pregame. He said it's not about those three. He said it's about slowing down everybody else. And I just think the Kings they almost looked tired tonight, which is really strange because the Kings played on Saturday, and before that, their last game was, I believe, on Wednesday. So this should not be a tired team. If anything, the Pelicans, I'm going to check the Pelicans. I believe I heard that coming into tonight, the Pelicans were this was their third game in 4 nights, which again I was told was a death sentence from the way that the Kings were playing and the excuses that some people wanted to make for the Kings team. Like, I think the Pelicans definitely didn't look sluggish at all. Didn't look like they had just played a ton of games in a short stretch of time. I can't even get their schedule up right here as I'm trying to filibuster. Let me get this. So yeah, the Pelicans played. Wow, yeah, they played back to back. They played on December. This is their third game of December already. They played December 1st. They played December 2nd, and they just played today on December 4th. So I really don't know what the excuse is, but you got eliminated from the tournament tonight because of it. So it is what it is. It definitely is what it is. Don't really feel like doing 3 stars of the game, but I'm going to anyway because I do think we had at least 3 good performers from the Kings tonight. Let's go with star number 1. Let's go with Malik Monk, who just continues to be excellent. I thought that if the Kings were going to make a comeback tonight, it didn't feel like it was De'Aaron's night. It did feel like De'Aaron. He was 10 of 25 from the field. Just didn't feel like the shots were falling for him. It felt like it was definitely a Malik Monk kind of night, and Malik showed up big, man. This dude has been on an absolute heater here recently. It feels like, I mean, last year he would definitely have pockets of having, some 20-point performances back to back, but this is now like 4 or 5 games in a row where Malik has just been incredible. Yeah, we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight games of double figures, and you've got in his last 5 games, his lowest point total is 15. Like he's been balling coming off the bench for the Kings. Him and De'Aaron have been a lethal combination, but Monk looks so good right now, and this dude's trying to get paid. Like he's in a contract year. He understands how big this season is for him personally and for this team, and he's definitely pulling his weight. I would definitely say Malik Monk has been. I mean, he might be the Kings' second best player so far this season. Like Sabonis has had some up and downs. I would say in terms of impact, it's really felt like Malik has been just absolutely huge this year. Of course, behind De'Aaron Fox, but it feels like Malik Monk has kind of taken another level when it comes to impact for this team. My second star is going to go to De'Aaron. Kind of just like I said, he had 30 points tonight, which is incredible. But 10 of 25 from the field is not going to cut it. He just, I don't know. Again, it kind of felt like he was, I wouldn't say sluggish, but just didn't. He just kind of seemed a little bit out of it, and I'm not saying mentally he was out of it or anything, but sometimes it's just you aren't feeling it. Sometimes you aren't in a rhythm for whatever reason in a game, and it just felt like this game was never really played at a pace or a speed that De'Aaron Fox dictated, and of course that dude dictates the speed 9 out of 10 times or 99 out of 100 times. So I'll give him the night off. Again, if his bad days, if his nights off are 30 pieces, that's a-okay with me. We just got to get some more free throws, my guy. 9 of 13 from the line. That's been a problem all season long, and it was good to see Sabonis hit all 10 of his, but De'Aaron and Domas both need to be better at the line this season if this Kings team wants to achieve their best. I mean, again, it's not really going to hold them back, but I can already see in the similar fashion of how last year, there were some games where we saw that offensive rebounding was going to be a problem, and then ultimately that's what killed them in the playoffs. I really do think that we're seeing a lot of games where the Kings are just missing a lot of free throws, leaving a lot of points out there and a lot of opportunity. And I can definitely see in one playoff game, man, you just better hope it's not a 1-1 series. In game 3, you miss 10 free throws and you lose that one. It's just a little bit concerning and definitely something to monitor as we have throughout this season. And that means 3 stars goes to Mr. Triple-Double himself, Domantas Sabonis, with a 26, 13 rebound, 10 assist performance. He only had 1 turnover tonight. We talked about De'Aaron having 16 assists and 1 turnover the other night. Domantas Sabonis, I believe, is leading the team. It's either him or De'Aaron, and I'm pretty sure it was Domas, was leading the team in turnovers by a pretty substantial amount. So the fact that he's able to get 1 assist tonight and 10 assists is just massive. Sabonis, yeah, he's averaging 3 turnovers a game, which is 1 more than the next highest king, Malik Monk. So, yeah, Sabonis only having 1 turnover is huge, but conversely, De'Aaron Fox had 6 tonight, and 4 of those were in the first quarter. So, again, just kind of not really De'Aaron's night. But good on Domantas Sabonis to have that kind of performance, again, against a guy who you probably would have picked out from a line to be a guy to stop Domas. So, shout out him, and hopefully he can kind of string together some performances, as he's had a pretty rough stretch of just opponents, big specifically, that he's had to go against. And just real quick, going to look at the Kings' upcoming schedule and just preview that just a little bit. They have, again, the Phoenix Suns or the LA Lakers on Thursday, depending on who loses tomorrow's game. Then on Monday, they'll be playing the Brooklyn Nets right here in Golden One Center before playing the second night of a back-to-back in LA against the Clippers. And then have a nice little homestand after coming back from LA, leading up until Christmas. I'm just going to tally them off. On Thursday, the 14th, they play OKC. Saturday, December 16th, they play Utah. On the 18th, Monday, they play the Washington Wizards. And then Wednesday, they play the Boston Celtics. And then Friday, first night of a back-to-back, play Phoenix and then Minnesota. So kind of a tough stretch of games coming up for the Kings. Of course, the schedule can never get easy for these guys. It does loosen up just a little bit after Christmas, but looking at this, I mean, the Kings can't be dropping that game to Brooklyn, can't be dropping another one to the Clippers. It's and you know, very quickly, pretty soon here, we can be looking in 2 or so weeks and see this team at 500 and wonder, you know, where is this thing going to go? So you never know how injuries are going to go with other teams, with this team, but definitely you need to keep your head above water, man. In this Western Conference right now, with how tight things are going, again, you see a really good Pelicans team who just picked up their 12th win of the season. There's a lot of really good teams in this Western Conference, and some are going to fall off. Some are definitely going to fall off, which is why you just kind of need to keep your name in the race and not fall too far behind. The Kings have done a great job so far this season of keeping their heads even more above water than what they need to. But definitely with this tough stretch of games coming up here, they're definitely going to need to be playing their best basketball, which they are right now. Again, even still, they've won 9 of their last 13 games, so can't be too down. 3 of those losses are coming to the New Orleans Pelicans. So, you know, again, you can chalk that down to this team just having their number and you know, try to not worry too much about it. Though there are definitely some teams that look a lot like New Orleans that there is to be feared. That's all I got for tonight, y'all. I'm honestly surprised I went for that long. I'm really disappointed, as I said up top, that this team will not be going to Vegas. I think it would have been a really fun environment to get these guys into just a different kind of atmosphere, a really hyped atmosphere, and they're unfortunately not going to be able to experience that. So we'll have to wait for playoff time to experience that kind of hype. But I think that's all right. Y'all all have a fantastic night. My name has been Chris Watkins out here from Golden One Center. Y'all have a fantastic night. I'll see you tomorrow. If not tomorrow, if you only tune in to these live streams, I will see you Thursday after that game against the mystery opponent. Y'all have a fantastic night. See ya.